Good evening and thank you for joining us on the news on NTA International. I'm Naja'atu Tijani, but first, the headlines. United States challenges World Health Organization for inquest of coronavirus, just as about 5.2 million cases of COVID-19 reported globally. Nigerian Navy flags off activities marking 64th anniversary, while Nigerian Army inaugurates facilities in northwest Nigeria. National Emergency Management Agency adopts scientific approach to management of all forms of disaster. And now the news in detail. President Muhammadu Buhari has signed into law Executive Order Number 10 of 2020 for the implementation of financial autonomy of state legislature and state judiciary order 2020. This is contained in a statement issued by Dr. Omar Jibrilu Gwandu, Special Assistant on Media and Public Relations Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. The statement notes that a Presidential Implementation Committee was constituted to fashion out strategies and modalities for the implementation of financial autonomy for the state legislature and state judiciary in compliance with Section 121, subsection 3 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, taking into consideration all other applicable laws, instruments, conventions and regulations which provide for financial autonomy at the state tier of government. According to the statement, the implementation of financial autonomy of the President, signed the Executive Order Number 10 into law, is based on the power vested in him as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria under Section 5 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, which extends to the execution and maintenance of the Constitution. Laws made by the National Assembly, including but not limited to Section 121, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, which guarantees financial autonomy of the state legislature and state judiciary. The order provides that, quote, the Accountant General of the Federation shall by this order and such any other orders, regulations or guidelines as may be issued by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice authorize the deduction from source in the course of Federation accounts allocation from the money allocated to any state of the Federation which fails to release allocation meant for the state legislature and state judiciary in line with the financial autonomy guaranteed by Section 121, subsection 3 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, unquote. Muslims worldwide will celebrate one of their biggest holidays under the long shadow of the coronavirus, with millions confined to their homes and others gripped by economic concerns during what is usually a festive time of shopping and celebration. The three-day Eid al-Fitr marks the end of the fasting month of Ramadan for the world's 1.8 billion Muslims. People usually celebrate by traveling, visiting family and gathering for lavish meals, all of which will be largely prohibited as authorities try to prevent new virus outbreaks. The holiday will begin on Saturday or Sunday, depending on the sighting of the new moon, and the dawn to dusk fasting of Ramadan will come to an end. Some countries, including Turkey, Iraq and Jordan, will impose round-the-clock curfews for the duration of the holiday. In Saudi Arabia, home to the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, people will only be allowed to leave their homes to buy food and medicine. With Eid al-Fitr celebrations just around the corner and Ramadan fast coming to an end, President Muhammadu Buhari will be conducting his Eid prayers with his family at home in Abuja. In a statement, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity notes this is in observance of the lockdown measures in the Federal Capital Territory put in place to save lives and protect people against the coronavirus. This is also in line with the directive of of the Sultan of Sokoto and President General of the Jama'at al-Nasr al-Islam, Alhaji Saad Abubakar III, suspending Eid congregational prayers across the country, as well as the protocol against mass gatherings issued by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. Further to this, the President, who has traditionally shared the joyous moment with top government officials, political leaders, community heads, Muslim and Christian religious leaders and children, will not be receiving these homages in a bid to stop the coronavirus from further spreading. And the world is rife with evidence that the coronavirus pandemic has given nature a little respite to rejuvenate and breathe by forcing man to stay indoors. Coming back out would therefore require that humans learn to cohabit the earth with other creatures to sustain the delicate balance of nature. This sums up the thrust of World Biodiversity Day, celebrated this year with the theme, Our Solution is in Nature. Onengie Fineface reports.
Resting under the shade of a tree is soothing and comforting. And that is because the tree provides a shade against the elements of nature. Now, having development alongside conservation of nature is what World Biodiversity Day seeks to achieve, a sense of conservative consumption of nature.
Insects like bees, mammals like bats, and primates like monkeys and squirrels, they carry out pollination for us without us paying them. If you do not have nature, our very survival is threatened.
COVID-19 induced lockdown across the world taught humanity that a healthy environment is possible. Wildlife, long unseen, appeared in the most unexpected of places, reminding man that they too are part of the earth and have the right to exist.
Most of the oxygen we consume as humans is produced by these trees in this forest. If we destroy the forest, we are starving ourselves of oxygen. We'll be killing ourselves.
Studies from the United Nations indicate that around 60% of all infectious diseases in humans and 75% of all emerging infectious diseases are zoonotic. That is, they get to humans through animals.
There's a link between COVID and wild animals. And when you destroy the habitat of a given species, in the process of handling that species, there could be transfer of one virus or the other to the human.
The theme for 2020 is Our Solutions Are in Nature, and this applies also to COVID-19.
COVID-19 has shown us that a little respite for the environment goes a long way, reducing our emissions, our pollution levels, protecting our nature, and allowing the nature to breathe.
A healthy ecosystem provides water, food, medicines, clothes, fuel, shelter, and energy for humanity. All reasons for mankind to protect biological diversity. In Abuja, Onengie Fineface, NTA News.
Thank you, Onengie. Now, joining me via Skype to speak on COVID-19 and the 2020 Biodiversity Day is the founder, Health of Mother Earth Foundation, Nemo Bassi. Glad to have you on the program.
My pleasure.
Now, in the context of that background report, it seems man needs nature more than it needs us. Why then would you say humans have continued to destroy the ecosystem?
The problem is that humans have forgotten that we are part of nature. We are not separate from nature. And we also have the tendency to think that we can transform nature, we can exploit nature, we can damage anything in nature, then repair it. We think that we have mastered nature. And so this mindset actually leads humans to be very destructive. And of all the species on Earth, humans are the most destructive in terms of biodiversity. And without biodiversity, as you've said in the report, without biodiversity, we are clearly harming ourselves. For example, if bees, who are major pollinators, should go extinct, humans will follow not long after. Because without the pollinators, production of food would be clearly impossible.
Now, how can the theme, "Our solutions are in nature," apply to the novel coronavirus, a zoonotic disease that is ravaging the world?
There's a direct link between the pandemic and biodiversity because, of course, we're talking about a virus, the coronavirus, a new form of that virus, a virus that has been existing for some time, but will now have a new form, which is creating this pandemic across the world. Now, the link, there are two possible sources of this virus. One is, as has been said by the earlier speakers in the report, the virus could have jumped from wild species to humans through, we've heard that it could be from bats and from pangolins, but it's also very possible that it's a product of extreme genetic engineering. I know some people have said this is not possible because they've not seen the markers that this could have been produced in the laboratory, but it's also known that there are methods of genetic engineering that would not leave any trace where it came from, that it was from the laboratory. So this thing needs to be investigated very closely so that we know the source. How did it come from the wild animal to humans? If we know the clear source, it's easier to tackle it. If you don't know, we keep on guessing that it's from animal, just jump naturally, then of course that becomes a bit more difficult to handle. But again, the clear thing is that we have to live in harmony with nature. We should not tamper with habitats. The more habitats are destroyed, the more the things that ought to stay away from humans are coming closer to us.
Now, we understand that COVID-19 lockdowns across the world resulted in the rejuvenation of nature and reduced pollution. How can we sustain these gains when the lockdown is lifted?
As with everything else, we have to review many things. I believe the lockdown has given us time to think about the things that we thought we could not do without, that we're now forced to do without. The lockdown has shown that we can travel less. Traveling less means less pollution. The number of flights, the number of cars on the street, the ship in the ocean, the less pollution, the more healthy the biodiversity around us. And now the way we consume too. There are many of us who shop compulsively. Now we're shopping less. In societies where people can place order for everything, they may still be carrying on with shopping recklessly. But now we learn that we are learning to live more frugally, spend less, get only the essential things. We are learning to understand that clean air may appear to be cheap, but it's very expensive when you are ill and you have difficulties in breathing. So what we should learn from this is that we have to ensure that there's less pollution. There should be more strict regulation of environmental issues. The more we harm the environment, the more we expose ourselves to the effect of even simpler diseases. And the more we take care of the environment, the more we learn that we can live with less impact on the biodiversity, the more healthy we'll be. The conclusion is this, that the way we treat the environment is the way the environment treats us. If we are kind to nature, nature is our mother, take care of us. If we are harmful to nature, then of course we are creating more problems for humanity. And this pandemic is just a warning. Worse ones could come up, but that shouldn't be the case.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bassi. We'll keep that message in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that was the founder of Health of Mother Earth Foundation, Mr. Nemo Bassi, on World Biodiversity Day. Now, the Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Abubakar, has congratulated Nigerians as the Muslim Ummah in the country celebrates this year's Eid al-Fitr. In a statement by Force Police Public Relations Officer, Force Headquarters, DCP Frank Mba, the IGP notes that the successful conclusion of the Ramadan, a period of self-denial geared towards attaining wholesomeness, reinforces his belief that with the citizens' collective perseverance and voluntary compliance with the prevention regulations placed by governments at all levels, the nation will surely overcome the COVID-19, the coronavirus pandemic. The IGP has assured the nation of adequate security during and after the Eid al-Fitr celebrations, while reminding citizens that the COVID-19 prevention regulation or Regulation orders, including the interstate movement restriction orders, national curfew, and the prohibition of mass socio-religious gatherings by the federal government in Lagos, Ogun, Kano states and the Federal Capital Territory, and restriction orders by governments in some states of the Federation are still in force. You're watching the news on NTA International. It's time for a break. The news will continue shortly. Thanks for staying with NTA International. The rising statistics of infected frontline health workers in the fight against COVID-19 in the country continues to engage critical stakeholders, discussing parameters that will guarantee a stable and improved working condition as well as welfare packages to sustain commitment. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports that this is coming as more than 150 frontline health workers are reportedly exposed to the virus.
As a form of solidarity to their colleagues at the front lines in the fight against COVID-19, these health workers here are to provide professional and financial support to those giving their all to save others. They are engaging public-spirited individuals and organizations to raise 2.5 billion naira for the provision of medical hardware and insurance package for COVID-19 healthcare frontliners.
Our target here and what we have done here today is to scout around who are the people that are ready to support or who have been supporting the frontline health workers.
Traditional religious leaders, among other stakeholders, laud the initiative.
We will make a pressure to see that we make necessary arrangements to meet those who are going to assist.
Frontline health workers, if you look at the advanced world, they have been given due attention and they have been given the support needed. And if this is the first time you see NMA, the Paramedical Society of Nigeria, and so on and so forth, they come together to give support and protection to the health workers.
The equipment purchased from the proposed funds will be recalibrated in meeting future health challenges in the country. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
Similarly, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, will henceforth adopt a scientific approach to proactively intervene in the management of all forms of disaster in the country. The Director General of NEMA, Air Vice Marshal Muhammadu Muhammad, stated this at his inaugural meeting with the directors of the agency. Ilyasu Ali Yakubu was there for NTA News.
Disaster management in any given society requires high level of proactive interventions for effective management. To achieve these, the new Director General of NEMA says will require scientific approach through mobilization of adequate resources, training and retraining of staff for effective delivery, as well as deepening collaboration with national and international partners. He said the agency must get back to the drawing board and mobilize all capabilities to tackle disaster situations before, during, and after such incidents.
It has been stated, successful emergency management relies on experience and expertise. Consequently, while we cannot stop natural disasters, we can arm ourselves with the knowledge a reasonable level of disaster preparedness so that not so many lives would be lost.
The DG said COVID-19 has escalated disasters across the country, hence the agency's determination to double effort in its management. In Abuja, Ilyasu Ali Yakubu, NTA News.
And in global news, the United States of America has instructed the World Health Organization to immediately begin work on a coronavirus inquiry. This is just as more than 5.2 million cases of COVID-19 have been reported worldwide, including more than 336,000 deaths, according to Johns Hopkins Hospital. And here's a highlight of the global update with Justin Bem Onyi.
Nigeria has recorded 7,016 confirmed cases of coronavirus, with 1,907 discharged and 211 deaths. In the last 24 hours, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC) announced 339 new cases with 11 deaths. The 339 new cases are reported from 18 states, and the center says no new state reported a case within the period. And taking a look at a live tracker on coronavirus in Africa, more than 100,000 confirmed cases have been recorded, with just more than 39,400 recoveries and more than 3,000 deaths. In the meantime, 10 ministers in South Sudan are now confirmed to have contracted coronavirus. Reports have it that Information Minister Michael McCoy revealed that all former members of the high-level task force on coronavirus, apart from the health minister, have tested positive for COVID-19. Relatively, on a global scale, more than 5.2 million cases of COVID-19 have been reported worldwide, including over 336,000 deaths, according to Johns Hopkins University. The U.S. makes up more than 1.6 million of those cases. There is a spike in Latin America, as the region reported more new cases than the U.S. or Europe for 3 days in a row, driven by high numbers in Brazil, Peru, and Mexico. Brazil recorded a number of fatalities in a 24-hour period as the coronavirus death toll surpasses 20,000. And from the Asian region, India, the country of 1.3 billion people, reported a total of over 118,000 confirmed cases on Friday, a roughly 5% increase from Thursday's figures included in the total 3,583 deaths. Following latest developments, the United States is calling on the World Health Organization to immediately begin work on an investigation into the source of the coronavirus outbreak and subsequent timeline of events. In a letter to the WHO's Executive Board meeting in Geneva on Friday, U.S. Assistant Secretary for Health wrote, and I quote, "As President Trump just made clear in his May 18 letter to Director General Tedros, there is no time to waste to begin on the reforms needed to ensure such a pandemic never happens again." End of quote. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
And the National Youth Service Corps NYSC is 47. It says it remains committed to the ideals of the founding fathers of the scheme, which is the promotion of national unity, integration and development. The Director General of the NYSC, Brigadier General Shuaibu Ibrahim, in a statement marking the day, appreciated the support received from past and present administrations in its more than 4 decades of existence. As the NYSC continues to wax stronger, Brigadier General Shuaibu Ibrahim lauds the commitments and support of staff and corps members in the fight against COVID-19, reiterating that the NYSC will continue to complement government's effort in stemming the pandemic. While appreciating the support received from the present administration, the Director General has given assurance of the scheme's support of actualizing the quest for accelerated development and continued existence of Nigeria as one entity. Similarly, anti-piracy operations, acquisition of new vessels and recruitment are just a few of the many successes recorded by the Nigerian Navy in its 64 years of existence. Recognizing the need to re-strategize in the wake of the novel coronavirus pandemic, the Nigerian Navy says it will be marking activities on a low-key while also reviewing its safety protocols and other policies and plans in order to accommodate what's happening globally. Presenting its scorecard to the media in Abuja, the Chief of Naval Staff, in a message delivered by the Chief of Policy and Plans, outlined anti-crude oil theft operations as part of the many successes recorded by the Nigerian Navy in its 64 years.
The Nigerian Navy equally committed enormous resources to equipment availability to support its operations. Accordingly, the Nigerian Navy took delivery of a total of 168 outboard engines with requisite spares As part of the Ministry of Defense Critical Intervention, the Nigerian Navy just took delivery of one Leonardo AW-139 helicopter, and this is currently being inducted into the service.
As well as the recruitment of more than 1,000 ratings, with another estimated 1,000 on standby, whose training at the school in One was delayed due to the lockdown caused by the coronavirus pandemic. It will also be distributing palliatives to the needy, as well as donating personal protective equipment to frontline workers in this COVID-19 era.
Meanwhile, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, has tasked barrack communities in various army formations to maintain reasonable sanitary behavior with a view to complementing the fight for the containment of COVID-19.
In line with policy thrust that prioritizes personnel welfare as key performance indicator and morale booster for effective army operations, the Nigerian Army embarked on execution of this additional infrastructure allocated to fighting troops deployed to end insurgency in the northeast and others deployed to some flashpoints in the country.
It is something that will improve our output. Now when we are going out, we will be happy we have a good place to stay.
Over 28 years of my marriage, I've not seen this kind of renovation.
Inaugurating the 195 blocks of completed houses, Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai in a message said the project, which is an integral part of the Nigerian Army Transformation Plan, aimed at alleviating accommodation challenges personnel are facing and enhancing their fighting spirit.
To whom much is given, much is also expected. Maintain the barracks, ensure sanitation, and then equally be very observant and diligent, and then watch out for any outward behavior that will militate against the security of this nation.
While acknowledging the successes being achieved by the personnel in dealing with armed banditry, the Chief of Army Staff also called for sustained onslaught on bandits terrorizing the people anywhere. In Kaduna, I am Suleiman Abdullahi Rigachikun, NTA News.
And up next is the weather forecast. And the weather forecast concludes the news on NTA International. Thanks for watching. Remember to stay safe by washing your hands often.